Hi all, welcome back to TCM Education. In this series of videos, which is now at the first, we are the first video out of 4. Hopefully we're going to cover this super important topic in 4 videos, each 14 minutes each. So the idea here is we want to explain why trading the US equity markets, with the emphasis US equity markets, is the best place for day traders. It's obviously one of the best places, if not the best place for investors. But why is it the best place for day traders? Of course, if you are a US day trader, you're not going to open an account in Germany or in Israel or in Turkey to day trade. You have the US equity markets. But what happens if you are a German trader or a Turkish or an Israeli or basically anybody anywhere in the world that has a good internet connection, some money? We'll talk about how much money in a bit. And you want to day trade, not invest, day trade the US equity markets. What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? How you need to approach? That's the topic of our series. So let's start first. What are the US equity markets? Basically, we're not going to make a fuss about it. 2 bourses, the New York Stock Exchange, which is the old exchange, and the Nasdaq, which is the new exchange. It's getting old by the minute. The new exchange opened in 1970. They combine to what we call today the US equity markets. Why they combine? Because as a trader and sometimes as an investor, you don't care if the stock trades on the New York Stock Exchange or on the Nasdaq. Sometimes stocks can move the way they're trading or where they're hosting from one bourse to another. So basically, we as traders and investors don't care anymore. It was important 15 or 20 years ago. Right now, it's not important. So nobody cares where the stock trades, New York Stock Exchange or the Nasdaq. That's fine for us. That's number one. Then US equity markets, that's a big name. 9 out of the 10 biggest companies in the world are on this list that you see here in front of you. And it means Nvidia, and you can see here the market cap for each company highlighted here. And you can see that the market cap as of July 3rd of Nvidia is nearly 4 trillion, and then Microsoft has a lot of trillions, and Apple has a lot of trillions, and Amazon, and so forth and so forth. And all of those companies, Netflix, Visa, Walmart, JP Morgan, obviously Tesla, those are household names basically across the world. Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett's biggest investment company, Taiwan Semiconductor, Facebook, which is called now Meta Platforms, Google, of course, Amazon, Apple. So this is the list of the most important companies in the world. Of course, there are many others. Adidas is not on this list, and BMW is not on this list, and maybe UK companies and German companies and maybe some Australian companies are missing from this list, and of course Toyota is not on this list. But overall, this list, like I said, it comprises 9 of the 10 biggest companies in the world. The only one that's in the Big 10 that's not listed in the US is Saudi Arabian oil drilling company Aramco. And we won't be able to day trade Aramco. But if you want to day trade anything out of this list, you can. On top of that, you have anywhere between 5,000 to 7,000 stocks that are available at any given time for trading, investing, day trading. When I say day trading, it means you can buy when the stock is moving up, you can short, meaning you can sell and make money if the stock is moving down, and that's a huge benefit of the US equity markets. Now, the biggest benefit or additional benefit of the US equity market is amazing liquidity, which means stocks are liquid and you can buy and sell very fast if you use a US broker, very, very cheap or almost at zero. I'm not going to discuss the cost right now, but the idea here is that you can enter the trade very, very fast with huge quantities or with small quantities and exit whenever you want during the trading day without almost any slippage, okay? Without almost any slippage, because the liquidity is amazing. Now let's take a look at the volumes. For example, yesterday, let's go back to my ugly charts, ugly pin, and let's take a look at the volume. Yesterday, Nvidia traded 143 million shares in half of a trading day. So 3.5 hours they traded 144 million shares. That's not money, that's shares. You want to know how much money exchange hands? You need to multiply 143 by the price of Nvidia, let's say $160, and you have something, a big name, a big number. So you want to know how many shares, for example, Tesla traded yesterday, and you look and you see the volume was 58 million shares. And how many shares Google traded yesterday, and you have the numbers here. So you can see that all those stocks trade millions of shares per day, and the numbers are actually way smaller than average, because yesterday it was a half a trading day because of the holiday. So the liquidity is the best in the world by far. Nobody can discuss it in terms of trading stocks. Okay, then we want to talk about how expensive it is to trade the US equity markets. How expensive it is to buy a position of 100 shares. There are places in the world where you buy 100 shares and they charge you, whoever, by the number of shares plus some commissions per how big your position is. In the US, you pay only for the number of shares. Now many US brokers, if not all of the US brokers, again, I don't know, not responsible for all of them, won't charge you for trading. So if you buy a position of 100 shares or a position of 2,000 shares, the cost for you as a trader is zero. Again, not all of the brokers, but there are some additional costs, and I'm not going to get into them. If you trade in Europe, you trade in the German equity markets, or you trade in Israel, or you trade in Australia, you know that those numbers sound insane. I mean, you're paying there anywhere between $5 and $30 per one position. In the US, zero. Okay, so that's another huge, super important benefit. Now let's move into the trading hours, which is super important if you don't live in the US. If you live in the US, the trading hours are 9:30 in the morning Eastern time until 4 p.m. That's only 6.5 hours of trading. If you trade in Europe or elsewhere in the world that I'm aware of, most of the time you trade anywhere between 7 and 8 hours. So they stretch, for whatever reason, the trading day into more hours with very, and the liquidity is way below the liquidity here. So the idea here is that you work, if you want to work as a day trader, you spend 4 or 5 hours in this job, and you don't need to stretch it along many hours where sometimes there is no volatility and there is no volume. Here you are guaranteed 9:30 in the morning if you can make it up outside of the US, which means in Europe anywhere between let's see 5:30 in the afternoon, anywhere between 3:30 and 5:30 in the afternoon. If you live in Russia, I think it's 3:30. If you live in Western Europe, is if you live in Russia, it's 5:30. If you live in in Western Europe, is 3:30, sometimes 2:30. So those are the hours. When you start trading, add 6.5 hours, or at least 6 hours, and that's the time that you need. You cannot trade the way some people advertise. You're coming to the Thai beach and you're drinking your Mai Tai. and for 20 minutes you're playing with your computer, and somehow the money is flowing into your account. I won't advise that. Maybe you can do it. If you can do it, stick to it. If not, I would suggest do it the right way. It's a job. You need to work, apply yourself, learn how to trade, and if you're successful, you're going to make money. If you're not successful, find yourself another job. That's again, the limitations are that you need to be in front of the computer, and if you want to day trade, you need a computer or a laptop and couple of large screens. You can trade from your mobile, but you cannot day trade from your mobile. You need to see the market, you need to see the charts, and I will show you what I mean in a minute. So now that the basics are here, and you know what are you trading, the best stock market in the world. How many stocks are available for trading? Thousands. How much does trading cost? Very little. What are the hours of trading? 9:30 a.m. in the morning Eastern time, and then of course, according to your personal time zone, until 4 p.m. and you need to apply yourself and trade anywhere between 4 or 5, maybe more. This is a job. It's not a Mai Tai drinking party. And now let's move on and see how the charts look. What is the business of a day trader, and how a day trader makes money, basically, both sides of the market. And sorry about one thing, the videos are limited to 15 minutes, so we will go through a series of videos. I think I discussed it before. Those videos are going to be posted one after the other, and hopefully you'll enjoy them. And if you have any questions regarding any topic that we discuss here, we have our email, and please use it. Okay, now let's take a look at the chart, because again, if you are a trader or an investor, you want to know how the stock looks. Is the stock trending lower, meaning it's a losing year for, let's say, for example, for Walmart? Or let's say, you know what, let's look at Tesla. Is it a losing year for Tesla, or is it a winning year for Tesla? I can show you here on the list. Okay, let me show you on the list. And it says that Tesla, which is an auto manufacturer, is actually year-to-date YTD. You can see YTD is down 21%. Let's call it 22%. So is Tesla a bad investment or a good investment? Can you day trade Tesla? On the other hand, we have here on the list Netflix. You can see it's up 45% this year alone. And we have stocks, other stocks that are up 20% and so on and so forth. So this is a number. Today it's down 21%, but maybe in 10 days Tesla will gain 21%. You don't know, I don't know. That's the business of investors. Now, is Nvidia, which is up 18% this year, will continue to go higher or lower? What is the deal with basically any stock? We have to look at the chart. So let's start with that, and then we'll develop how we look at charts, what are charts, how we analyze charts in our next video. So let's take a look at the chart, like I said, we said, of Tesla, and this is the chart of Tesla since the beginning of 2025. You can see that the stock moved higher at the beginning of the year, reached a top of $440, then dropped nearly half of its value to $214. Now it's trading at $316. Okay, what does it mean? Okay, for you, are you a trader or are you an investor? In order to understand all of that, meet us in our next video, which will be coming immediately.